Namaste. It's a joy to be with all of you and to share with you today. A lot of our members are next door at the yoga teacher training, but it's nice to have you all here. Today's topic is how high should we aspire? And this is a question that we all might have in our spiritual life, in the spiritual path. And when we chant like we did today, it was just so beautiful. I mean, you can just feel like you're just about to leave your body. You're leaving your worries behind, your doubts, your fears. And chanting gives us the feeling of who and what we really are inside. When we do Kriya, and when we have Kriya initiations, it gives us a glimpse at, wow. I mean, I think the most beautiful faces are those that walk out that door after Kriya, because they're full of light. And when we serve, there's a vibration that we feel, and we feel like this is who I am. It's not this person, this personality, this body, these dilemmas in my life. When we are with our Guru Bhais, and in every way, when we do affirmations, we get a glimpse. This is who I am. This is what I want to be. This is who I'm aspiring to become. And I remember once someone was at Ananda village. We were there in California, and my friend and I we were in Swamiji's kitchen, and she was telling me about this book that she had about, I think it was about George Washington Carver. And so she said, oh, you would just love that book. And so Swamiji walks in at that moment. He said, well, what are you all talking about? And she says, well, I'm telling Dhyana about a book about her people. And Swamiji looked at me and said, who are your people? And I went, you know? He always was trying to get you out of this limited feeling that who and what we really are is really deep beyond our thoughts, beyond, I like curry, I like apple pie, I'm a yoga teacher, I'm a therapist, whatever it is. There's so much more that each one of us is. And these great masters come to show. I remember in San Francisco, Kabir, you might remember this brother, his name was Shunyabai. And his name meant brother zero, you know. And I just loved that. I said, that's it. You know, that he had become everything in nothing. Like Master said, I killed Yogananda long ago. No one lives in this temple now but God. And sometimes Swamiji, at least I know of one time, I wasn't there, but some of the Guru Bhais told me that he came out, they were somewhere visiting somewhere, I think on a little vacation or whatever, and Swamiji comes in the room, he says, good morning, great souls, and everyone goes, who is that? No, people wonder, who is that? But Master also, remember he said, I see you all as light. You don't know how beautiful you are, just light everywhere. And we don't see ourselves as light, but we are that light. And there was a man who Master kept saying to him, because he was always so much in his worries. And what's so wonderful about this path is you get more and more free. Every day, you get more free. You have less worries. Maybe they're still there, but they're not worrying you. They're worrying somebody else. You have less fears. Maybe they're still there, but you're not afraid of them anymore. You understand what I mean? You have less doubts. Maybe they're there, but you don't doubt anymore. And so this man, he was there. Master would just tell him, come out of that body. Get out of there. That's not who you are. And all these masters have come with the same message. That's not who you are. Realize who and what you really are. And you remember when Master was walking by Swamiji once, and he said, he says, well, how are you, Walter? And Swamiji, he called him Walter. Swamiji goes, well, Master said, that's good. He just never allowed. He didn't let moody people be around him because that wasn't who they were. And so it was the same with our gurus, all of them. Remember, Swami Shri Teswarji said, the past lives of all are dark with many shames. Who wants to look back there? Who wants to look back there? He said, but everything, he didn't say some things, everything will improve if you're making the right spiritual effort now. Everything will improve. And I remember when I was coming, before I came onto the path, I had this feeling when I was younger, maybe I was in my 20s, and I remember once I had this really strong feeling before I met Master. It was like, I can do anything. I mean, it was just bursting out of me. I said, where is that coming from? I mean, I wasn't on the path. I didn't have my guru yet, but I can do anything I want. And I could feel from a past life, this power that was just there. And then I went to, after that, soon after I went to college. So now I have to tell you, I went to probably, at some point it was the worst high school in America. Here's Kabir, it was like the worst school, rated the worst school. So I graduated from that school. Of course, I had straight A's. It was Compton High. And of course I had straight A's because everybody else was getting D's and F's. But I was smart in that school. So then I go from there to UC Berkeley. I mean, that was a huge leap. And it was because of affirmative action. You all would remember that I got into that school. So they had to have so many types of people going to that school. So I said, I'm going to that school. So I get into the school, and this is about how high you should aspire. Now, I had to really reach up, but I said, I can learn. I know I can learn. And these other kids, they surely could learn. They were going on vacations all the time, and I remember Thanksgiving came, and I couldn't go anywhere. I was just, my mother called, she said, aren't you coming home? Thanksgiving is a big holiday. I was crying on the phone. I'm flunking out of college. And I on my first big exam in physical anthropology, I still don't really know what that means. I got a straight F at the midterm. F? Me? I was shocked. I was just shocked. There was these huge lecture rooms, 500 people. I was used to like 30 people and all kind of sleeping on their desks, and I'm on this huge lecture hall. So I had a straight F, and I just can't flunk out of college. I mean, it took me so much to get into that college. And I just worked and worked. And I understood what will. I gained will, determination, power. I just was in the library and also had a job. It wasn't like I was just sitting in the classroom. I had a half-time job, 20 hours a week. The rest of the time I was in the library, and I know I can learn. First quarter of college, you're flunking out. I just couldn't do that. And I was the only person in my family who went to college. So I just kept studying. I just got to get, this was before I was on the path, but it was from past lives. And so then the final came, and I was nervous, I just cannot get an F on the final. So I wrote and wrote. This was the days of writing the final. I don't know what they do now, but it was so thick. It was so many questions on physical anthropology. So I wrote my best answers. So then that night, I said, okay. Then in the middle of the night, I woke up, I said, oh my God, I forgot to put my name on my paper. I was just like, I had a meltdown. I said, oh no. But I wrote in red ink, and I came from the background was heavy. I lived in Watts, I lived sort of all over LA, but it was a heavy scene. There were people shooting people, drugs everywhere, and Master protected me. But I knew I could learn. I knew I could raise myself up. I just knew it. I had it in me. So then I thought, oh my God, but I wrote in red. So the next day I went and found the teacher's assistant, and I said, my name's not on the paper. I just begged him. I said, but my papers are written in red. Now, who writes in red? I never wrote in red before or after. So there's stacks. This was Divine Mother. I didn't even know. There's stacks of paper. This was the day of the paper. It wasn't on computer. Stacks of papers. And we were going through the papers, and then finally I saw my paper, A. I said, that's my paper. He said, are you sure that's your paper? I said, that's my paper. So I got a C in the course. But I just lifted myself up. I knew I could do it, but I could have gone lazy. And so many people said, no, I can't, oh, I won't, oh, I don't want to, oh, it's too hard, oh, it's foggy, oh, it's hot, oh, it's cold. There's so many excuses a person can make. But if you really want to do something, you think of the great musicians, and they just tuned in to music. Swamiji wrote 22 or so melodies in one day at one time. You think of the great art that's been written. People tuned in and were able to produce that. You think of the great explorers, and I'm reading a book now about a great mountaineer. He was blind, and he went up to the top of Mount Everest. I love reading those stories. He was blind. In the walkathon, I see some of my Pune friends here. Pragnya, please stand. She helped to organize the walkathon in Pune last week. But remember that blind boy? He walked 10 kilometers. There was a man who had just had knee replacement. He walked 5. We had to push him into a car at a certain point because he wanted to keep walking 10. I mean, he wanted to do it. And he had the energy behind him to do it. And you think of the great scientists, and I love hearing about people discovering things, something new, something inspirational, a new insight, inventions. People reached high. They didn't say, well, we're okay with just writing. We don't need any computer. You know, think of Steve Jobs. He just went, no, we need something. People need it. People need a phone. You know, people need these things. People need a cell phone. People need a video camera, whatever. People need it. So people reached up to be able to discover those things. And I remember the beautiful story of George Washington Carver. You know who he was? He was a great soul. But anyway, he was, I won't tell you because I'll tell you the story, but anyway, he was a scientist. So he asked God one day, he was very religious, very spiritual, and he said, now, what is the purpose, he's in his prayer, what is the purpose of the universe? And God replies to him, well, George, now that's just too much of a big question for you. That's too big of a question for you. And he says, okay, well, what is my purpose in life? And he hears the response from God, well, George, you know, you won't be able to understand that. That's too big for you still. So he says, what is the purpose of the peanut? And God says, that's just about right for you. So George Washington Carver made 300 usages for the peanut. 300? I mean, anything about the peanut, he discovered it. Peanut butter, peanut, whatever it is George Washington Carver. But here again, he lifted up his consciousness. And then you think of the great yogis and the masters who, they attune themselves. I mean, these musicians and scientists and all, they attune themselves in a particular way. But the yogis also, they attune themselves. They meditated for hours, days, years, yugas, to be able to come to the point where they were. And you think of Master, he was, he just was nothing. He said, anything is possible, period. Anything is possible. I'm just remembering that story in my mind now in the autobiography of a yogi, where there's a man who, they're looking for this thief. I think it's in the Two Penniless Boys from Vrindavan. I can't remember which chapter, but the police are looking for a thief, and they see this man, and they run after him, and they just chop his arm off. Do you remember that story? And then the yogi just goes, brink, and he puts it back in. And he said, come in a couple of days. Don't worry. Come back. You'll see I'll be fine. They came back, and they couldn't believe it. The Master came to show anything is possible. And so when he had his lectures, he had people up affirming, chanting, doing healing techniques, anything, meditating. He wanted to get people moving because people are too passive. And he said, all these tools that he gave, energization, Hangsa, Om, Kriya, all the techniques that we have of affirmations, healing, all these things, he said, these tools, you utilize these tools, they will help you to achieve your highest potential. And that's what you have to love about his life. And you look at his life, he did so many things, and he wasn't just, oh, I'm meditating, don't disturb me. Now, I remember the time Master had, it was a time when his temple, he had the temple in Encinitas, and the temple just slid down the mountaintop, and the hillside, down into the ocean. And you would think, oh, he feels so badly. Master said, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. Just love it. So Divine Mother wanted me to go out. He didn't let anything stop him. One time he wanted to travel around America and he wanted to teach, and his secretary said, but sir, you don't have any money. He said, I do have money. He said, but the bank account is dry. You don't have any money in the bank. He said, I'm going to get the money. Master walks through the streets of San Francisco, and a man approaches him. Now, these stories are really miraculous, but you see how kind of magnetism. Yoga gives you that magnetism. Do anything. Don't make an excuse. I kid people, I'm writing a new book, the Book of Excuses. The book is long. Everybody has them all day, every day. So there was Master, and he was there, and he knew that he wanted to go around and lecture. And so a man walks by him, and he says, he had long hair, he was dark-skinned. I don't know if he had robes on or not, but people could tell he was, from the East. And so this man says, I want to help you with your work here, whatever you're doing here. And Master says, you don't even know who I am. And the man said, yes, I do. Isn't that beautiful? And he says, from your eyes. And he writes Master a check. This was the 20s, maybe the 30s. You know how much he wrote that check for? $27,000. He could have said, I don't have money to go on the tour, I won't go. Okay, I won't be able to help anybody. He got the money, he went on the tour. Isn't that wonderful? Then Mount Washington, he walked on the property. He said, this feels like ours. And all the people said, you can't go in there. That place, that's not our place. He says, no. He invites all the students to come. He doesn't even have the place yet. But he says, no, this place feels like ours. And then he says he needed first it was $65,000. And then he said, Divine Mother froze my hand till the price went down by $20,000. That he still had to get that money. It was a huge amount. But he didn't hold back. This is what I want to say. He didn't hold back. He kept reaching for the sky, reaching for the dream he had, reaching for God to help him. And then at the end, he gets the place. And he said, very interesting. And as somebody said, it'll take you 3 years. He said, 20 years. 20. See, come on, those little teachers. He's been in teacher training. I have to watch out with him. But he says, take you 20 years to get that money. And Master said, 20 years? For those who think 20 years. 3 years? For those who think 3 years. And he needed to get it in 3 months. He said, 3 months? If you think 3 months. 3 months, he has the $45,000. And he gets the place, and he said, Divine Mother likes to keep my life interesting. He said, but the drama was over, and the place was ours. We have to look at his example, Swamiji's example, the example of the saints. Don't be limited by anything. And our greatest aspiration is to unite ourselves with God. Master said, we were in the Bhagavad Gita course. Who was there yesterday? Stand up, Ritu. Oh, yes. Oh, okay, yes. So please come. We had a wonderful time, didn't we? The Bhagavad Gita study group. And Master said right in the beginning, millions will find God through this teaching. Not thousands, millions. I know. I have seen it. And what's in there is everything we've been talking about. It's all in the Bhagavad Gita. And you know that phrase, I'll close with this, in the Gita says, out of 1,000, one seeks me. I read that and went, oh my God, that's not so good. And then out of the 1,000 that seek me, perhaps one knows me. The master says, I heard him on one of his talks, he says, our percentages are better than that. You gotta love it. He was always so positive. So go for it, you know, and when you come out on the stage, how is everybody? How feels everybody? You know, and that's why I want to chant this chant today, joy, joy, joy. That in the final analysis, we are completely free. Everything is gone and we merge like the wave into the ocean in the cosmic joy, Satchidananda. It's all worth it. You know, we used to teach all over India when we first came here, and people had so many reasons why they couldn't start the teachings. Oh, well, I'm too young. I'll wait till I'm let me get my career started. Okay. Then another person, no, I'm busy now. Let me wait until I retire. Okay, and then another, no, now I got a family. Let my kids grow up and go to school, go to college. Okay. Then another person, oh, now I'm ill, so I have to wait till I'm well. And then after that, now I'm old. Wait till next lifetime. You know, really, now I'm old. Why not now? Master loved that phrase. Eventually, why not now? I want to close with just these couple of lines from Master from Samadhi. Just close your eyes and feel him speaking to us. This is just a short portion of his poem of who and what we really are. Vanished the veils of light and shade, lifted every vapor of sorrow, sailed away all dawns of fleeting joy, gone the dim sensory mirage, love, hate, health, disease, life, death, perished these false shadows on the screen of duality, waves of laughter, scillas of sarcasm, melancholy whirlpools melting in the vast sea of bliss, the storm of Maya stilled by magic wand of intuition deep, the universe, forgotten dream, subconsciously lurks, ready to invade my newly wakened memory divine. I live without the cosmic shadow, but it is not bereft of me. As the sea exists without the waves, but they breathe not without the sea. Dreams, waking, states of deep turiya, sleep, present, past, future, no more for me, but ever present, all flowing, I, everywhere. Om, Shanti, Shanti. Let's meditate a couple of minutes.